Senator Moran, take it away.
Chairwoman, thank you, and thank you to the Chairman and Vice Chairman of the committee. I hope this is the evidence that I expect it to be of the amount of cooperation on both sides of the aisle and the effort to get us through our legislative process and appropriations. Secretary, the front page of the Washington Post today about a joint investigation, the paper conducted into the liver allocation rule that was implemented in 2020. Since that rule was announced in 2018, my former colleague, Senator Roy Blunt, and I have continually flagged for your department how harmful and unfair the rule is to the Midwest and the South. The results of the Washington Post investigation prove that we were correct. Quoting from the Washington Post story, the analysis from data from federal health authorities found sharp declines in life-saving surgeries in Puerto Rico and 7 states, all but one southern and Midwestern: Kansas, Alabama, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Dakota, Iowa, and Pennsylvania. Mr. Secretary, I raised this topic with you the first time you were in front of this committee. The analysis, in addition to what we learned in 2021 from internal conversations between United Network for Organ Sharing and a New England OPO, that prove intentional collusion against Americans living in health professional shortage areas. All of these facts combined are more than enough to halt the liver allocation rules implementation and for HHS to rethink its over 30-year relationship with UNOS. Today's announcement, the Health Resources and Service Administration is proposing, so there's the good news, is proposing to divide up the OPTN contract and open competition for contracts to new organizations to step, and it's certainly a step in the right direction. I'm hoping that the department is finally, in my view, taking the life and death battles of Americans, the battles they are facing through the current OPTN system, seriously. To that end, HHS, the 24 budget request is $67 million for modernization of the transplant network. Could you please confirm your department's commitment to working with my office, with Congress, to improve the OPTN system for all Americans and fill the details in on the $67 million modernization request? And are you able to commit to this subcommittee that in addition to the important announcement from HRSA today about rebuilding our nation's transplant infrastructure, organ allocation formulas will be on the table for a complete overhaul, resulting in a more equitable formula?
Senator Howard, probably the best way to put it is you had me at hello on that one, simply because you have been ringing this bell for quite some time. We took a little time, but we wanted to make sure we could do it right. And so I'm glad you heard about our announcement. We are going to open up the process so that this one contractor doesn't believe that it owns this shop. And we're hoping that through competition, we're going to really be able to open this up in a way that lets the best of those who can offer the service take over the contract. Secondly, we're going to do everything we can to add transparency into the way this works, because as you just pointed out, you had to go dig for this information to find out that there may have been fraud and abuse. We're going to try to move towards much more transparency, especially with the data that they're collecting, because we don't have full sight of where they're sending organs, how they're doing it. And the more we have the data, the more we can show whether they're doing it the right way or not. And so open up the process to the best bidder, make sure we have transparency, and then you mentioned the president is calling for $67 million, so we can do principally one thing: catch up with the times, because the technology that's being used is too outdated. When we can transmit and communicate with folks around the world instantaneously, there is no reason why organ transplantation information cannot be made available quickly as well, because these organs have a certain shelf life. And so we're going to try to do what we can to make sure that no organ goes to waste, and we have to make sure that we bring in an infrastructure that can accommodate that.
Mr. Secretary, you know as a member of Congress that you get people who bring you problems, and you do things like we call casework, and this started out a bit like that, but it became evident, and I'm glad the department now is apparently seeing this. This is really about life and death, and the analysis that we've seen indicate there are people who have died in those states because of the allocation process that was put in place by a process that was far from even satisfactory. So I thank you. Is there anything that you're not doing that I should insist you do?
Please bird dog this. It is not easy. We're trying to, it's not easy to make the boat, the big ship switch direction. And there will obviously be those who lobby to keep the status quo. And so please persist.
I will do that.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.